Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 2, episode 41. I'm really hoping that this is working right now. I'm not sure if you guys actually saw me stare into the screen, into the camera for the last 5 seconds there. Sometimes when we're streaming stuff from Zoom over to Facebook, it doesn't always connect as well. So I'm really hoping that this is going to work. Otherwise, I'll just probably have to redo this again. However, if you're watching this, awesome. So today we're back to one of our favorite topics and favorite strategies, that is lease options. And today we're actually on part 6 already. And really, the last episode that I wanted to share with you really is just how to assess the viability of the strategy for the markets that you actually want to go into. Remember, we keep saying SMP, strategy, market, property. Strategy, market, property. Now that we've decided on the strategy that we want to use, it is time now to identify market or markets that will actually help us get the numbers that we want. Because remember, we're learning to be investors, not just buying properties for the sake of buying properties. And so today we're going to talk about fair market rent as well as money in the buy. So two different factors, okay? First one is fair market rent. So the thing about it is that that is usually a factor that you don't really have a whole lot of control over. However, once again, how is fair market rent determined in any market? Well, that really goes back to this exact same question as how does the fair market value of anything get determined? Ultimately speaking, is when you have a willing buyer and a willing seller coming to terms, okay? So no different than if, let's say, the last time you went grocery shopping and at the checkout counter, you see a bunch of candy bars right next to it. I know they're so tempting sometimes, aren't they? So you see a bunch of candy bars right next to it as you're checking out and you're playing that mental tug of war. And finally, you're like, you know what? I deserve a little Kit Kat bar, for example. Then you reach over. However, just as you're reaching over, you see that the price tag of the Kit Kat bar says $2. And all of a sudden you're saying, "Whoa, hang on a second. $2 for a Kit Kat bar. That seems a little steep, isn't it? And plus, it's not exactly healthy for me. I don't really need that." So you start to rationalize with this. And then after a lot of mental debate with yourself and a lot of willpower for some of us, you decide to walk away and not pick up that Kit Kat bar. However, the next person comes along and they decide, hey, you know what? I deserve a Kit Kat bar, $2. I got $2, no problem. I think it's okay. So they grab it. So in your case now, you did not establish a fair market value of how much that Kit Kat bar is worth to you between you and the seller, in this case, the grocery store. However, for the next person, just because a willing seller and a willing buyer have come together and formed and completed that transaction. So that is how a fair market value of anything really is determined. And so in this particular case, I always like to say fair market rent usually works around the same way as well. So while in the larger environment, because let's just put it this way, if you buy a property, okay, if you have a property in a neighborhood on a street where the average fair market rent is anywhere between 1,800 to about 2,200. It is probably going to be very, very difficult if you want or need to, in this case, because you're investing, if you need to charge at least $2,500 as your fair market rent to make the deal work. It's probably going to be a little hard to justify that, honestly. However, there are usually ways to work around it, such as the fact that you're not raising rent over the next 2 to 4 years while they're in the program, or you can do a little bit of cosmetic upgrade as well. However, so far, everything that we've been speaking about has not exactly involved cosmetic upgrades of any sort. The properties that we're acquiring for a lease option strategy, typically speaking, are move-in ready properties. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but I'm super, super excited about talking about stuff like this, because to me, this is the heart of investing. It's not about the property, it's about the numbers, about how you actually piece every single factor together to make a strategy work. And why does the strategy have to work for you? Because remember, before we even determine your strategies, it ultimately is about your financial goals. So many people get into real estate investing for the sake of collecting properties, and the properties are actually not really contributing directly to their financial goals. And so I just want to make sure that that concept is really drilled in, because it comes down to really elevating your financial education and your financial intelligence so that you can get there effectively and efficiently. And this is why I'm so fired up about stuff like this, because I love analyzing numbers and factoring in market conditions and different factors. Okay, so fair market rent in this particular case, you do have a little bit of control. However, in the larger sense, most of the times you may not. But that's not what we're talking about here. Let's go over and take a quick look at the numbers now. Okay, so love doing this because I get to switch sharing screens. So I'm hoping that you guys are following along. And I realized just now, actually, I was going back to look at the videos that I made yesterday and the day before, or the last few episodes rather. I realized I actually went to the half-an-hour mark, and usually I like to keep these episodes between 15 minutes to 20 minutes. However, there's just so much that I want to make sure that I really round out the picture for you, especially when we're talking about deal analysis and market conditions and how the different factors can actually impact your performance, or the performance of your deal and your asset. So I want to make sure that I really cover all that. So thank you so much to those of you who have actually followed me and like stuck with the last few episodes up until this point. So it gets a little technical, it gets a little analytical, which honestly is not my very personality. However, it really gets me fired up. So let's go back here now. And this is the original example without any tweaking. So let's just do a quick recap right now. Purchase price of this property is $318,000. We're going to use 75% loan to value mortgage as our baseline still. What that means, once again, as you know, is 25% down payment is required for us to get into the deal. And then we have legal fees, appraisal, inspection, miscellaneous. And so far, we've been using the Ontario market as our baseline. So there is a land transfer tax, stamp duty, property tax, property transfer tax, or title ownership transfer, whatever you want to call it, because your local government, it could be municipality, could be your province, could be your state, could be your federal government that needs to charge that. Okay, so just make sure that you factor that in. So in this particular example, we are keeping the land transfer tax unless you're doing the deal in Alberta. So initial option consideration is $12,500. So we get the initial investment. Nothing else is changing here for now, okay? Because what we really want to look at is tweaking one number and what that does. So I'm going to quickly go back here now and make sure that we take the notes down. I already took a picture earlier so that I can do this with everybody. I'm hoping the original scenario. So original scenario, we got a cash flow of, whoopsie, we got a cash flow of, let's see, what are we at? 1047. Okay, so we have a cash flow of 1047, and so what happens there is our ROI on an annual basis is 32.22%. I don't know why I keep writing dollar signs here. And then total profit on the original example here is 71,292 over 3 years. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to change fair market rent on this property to something that is a little higher. Something that is a little higher. So really, if we go through the spreadsheet once again, I want to go through the entire thought process with you so it's very, very clear. Purchase price does not change. Lending terms do not change. So initial investment does not change. Sale portion, transfer of title to the tenant buyers, nothing here actually changes either. So what are we changing? Fair market rent. We were at $1,750. So let's just say that we're in a market where this same property can actually fetch, let's just say $1,850. So just $100 more, just $100 more per month. Let's now take a look at how that changes the number, okay? So what this means now is very simple, because property tax is not changing here, because our lending terms do not change, the mortgage amount on a monthly basis stays the same. And so property tax, insurance, same numbers as well. So profit from cash flow on a monthly basis went up by 100. Makes sense, because the fair market rent went up by 100 and the monthly option consideration did not change at all. So we have, I'm just going to write this down. No, actually, I don't have to. It's $100 more. But what I really want to do is this portion now. So if you guys can take a look, total profit is now $74,892. ROI is 33.85. Okay, and so the original scenario, if you remember, the total option consideration is just shy of 10%. Once again, if they're not self-employed, there's a lot of wiggle room as far as we know right now, based on what the government is requiring. Okay, so let's go back to our little whiteboard so that we can compare the numbers. So once the fair market rent went up by even just $100 a month, what does that do? Well, cash flow, as we know, is 1147, and the ROI is now 33.85%. And then the overall profit is 74,892. So that also went up. Now, I understand $100 per month is not a huge difference. And this is also why I just want this to be a very micro movement so that you can see the impact on the numbers. 32.22 over to 33.85, that is 1.63% increase in your annual return on investment. Okay, I don't know where you live right now. In North America right now, on your best day, you're not even going to be able to find a bank that's going to offer you 1.63% return on your investment or interest rate, rather on your money saved up with them, unless you go into a CD in the US or go into maybe a GIC, and you might even have to lock it in for 3 to 5 years for them to guarantee that kind of a return. And the funny thing is, in Canada, we call it guarantee. It's actually not guaranteed. Okay, so just make sure that you understand what we're looking at here. And this is why choosing the right markets to contribute to your strategies is so, so, so vital. We often talk about the fact that most new students that get started, it's never just about one strategy. So many people, they just want to learn about distressed property, or learn about BRRRR, or learn about duplexing, or learn about single family homes, or learn about how to buy pre-sales. And I don't even know why people need to learn how to buy pre-sales, to be really honest, because that is not smart investment. I'm just going to put it out there once again. And so when you focus on one strategies, you're leaving yourself to be very, very vulnerable. So at the very basic, we always talk about 2 by 2. Remember, S&P. So 2 strategies minimum in 2 different markets, so that you get to diversify within the same asset class. And when you can do it right and choose the right market to execute a strategy, oh my God, you can see how quickly, how much more effective and efficiently you can get to your financial goal as well. So once again, not a whole lot, but we just went up the rent by $100 a month. And so as a result, your cash flow goes up by $100. That's $1,200 on an annual basis. So I don't know what your tax bracket is. However, $1,200 a year, $1,200 a year, okay? If your tax bracket is 35%, this represents 65%, okay? 65% of your after-tax dollars. That means you would need to get a raise of $1,846 minimum on an annual basis. And when the economies are bad, who is actually giving raises to their employees? So once again, I want to tie it back to why financial education is super important. It's about taking that control back and being able to control how much money you get to make, while again, with this strategy, especially helping people. And it's not just a strategy. Honestly, though, even with our regular rentals, we take pride in providing quality housing for people to rent. And so one of the episodes I've been thinking about doing is really, I mean, I think it's the first time I'm ever going to talk about this in, in my 10 plus years of career, is how I actually set up my entire business. Some people like to call it empire. I don't like that word personally, but I really want to share with you at some point now before the season ends of why all different strategies are important, and how how sticking to one strategy, yes, it might get you started. However, you're not going to run very fast or run very far with it. But I do want to share with you a little bit about my journey towards the end of this season so you can see the big picture as well. Because why do I want to do this? Somebody else did it for me once upon a time. I got numerous mentors and coaches along the way. I never say that I know everything. In fact, I don't, because the more I learn, the more I realize, holy cow, there's a lot of things that I'm constantly learning. And that's what's really fun about this industry as well. And that's why there's no one size fits all. You should not be learning about one particular market or one particular strategy. You need to be well versed and understand, most importantly, how every strategies can actually come together to form that greater picture for the greatest protection that you can have for the effort and the money that you're putting in and building your investment portfolio, especially in real estate. Okay, so that is just one simple factor right now, which is fair market rent. I want to now go into the next part of this, which is money in the buy. And this is what we a lot of the times talk about, is that whenever you have a property first strategy, honestly though, other than tenant first lease options, most people will do property first, unless some people will argue you're inheriting tenants in a regular buy, rent, and hold or typical income property, for example. However, what I want to focus on here now is making some money in the buy. And without getting into the whole details about flipping or having to do cosmetics, I'm just going to say what I'm going to demonstrate with you is, let's assume that money in the buy simply means that we happen to be in a market where it's a buyer's market, or you actually found a distressed seller, okay, in terms of the property that you're going to pick up for your tenant buyers. So we already have our baseline. What I want to do now is go to another spreadsheet that I actually copy and paste over already. As you can see, this has been reset. So what happens here now is, let's just say in 318, we've been saying that this is our purchase price. So I'm just going to put an extra layer there now. The $318,000 in purchase price also represents the fair market value of that property, meaning we actually didn't make any money in the buy. We didn't overpay. However, we didn't make money in the buy. So now, why don't we just say, you know what, let's shave off maybe $8,000. Okay, so we're now buying the property for $310,000. So let's keep moving. We're gonna say 75% loan to value mortgage stays the same. And that means 25% is our down payment. So simply because of the fact that our purchase price has changed, the 75% and the 25% numbers need to adjust as a result. So let's just punch it in once again into our amortization calculator, mortgage calculator, or my fellow Canadians, your Canadian mortgage calculator, okay? So 318, we put down 25%. That means, whoops, it didn't take. 25%, 79,500, which matches the spreadsheet number as well. We're gonna keep legal fees the same, appraisal, inspection, miscellaneous, exactly the same. And land transfer tax, okay, that is going to change simply because of the fact that, the purchase price has changed. Ooh, hang on a second. Maybe my formula did not work very well. This needs to be 323,500 in terms of mortgage. And then what that means is this should be 77,500. You see how light this is? Not even pre-planned. Well, pre-planned in terms of subject. However, there's a glitch on the spreadsheet now. I guess when I copied and pasted it over, it didn't, the formula got lost. Either way, now we got the correct numbers to keep moving forward. Now, land transfer tax, instead of 3245, I got 3125 now. Okay, so remember, this is an Ontario, Canada example for now. Okay, and so when it comes to lease options, once again, initial option consideration, we're going to hold that constant, not change that as well. So total initial investment is $73,745. So let's keep moving forward. So we made money to buy. However, the option to purchase price stays fixed. So what that also means now is 368,000 does not change. However, what does change now here is the balance. So 3 years from now, instead of 222,575, our balance is 216,976 according to the amortization table. And then there's $2,000 for closing and paying ourselves back and rebating the total option consideration, and that's a combination of initial option plus the total monthly option consideration accumulated. So profit at closing is now $33,600. And average fair market rent, we're keeping it at $1,750. Nothing changes here. However, because purchase price changed, what else also changed, even though lending terms stayed the same? Our monthly PI payment, our monthly mortgage payment. So now I got 953.33 here. So I'm going to round it up to 954. And property tax does not change, neither does the property insurance. So now we have a final number of, wow, nothing took here. So I'm just going to do it this way. We pocket 2405. We got to pay out 954. And then we got to pay out, whoopsie, let's see. This is super live. More life than I thought it would be. So there's now a cash flow of $1,071. So it actually went up a little bit. So let me take a picture of this now, and going back up, take a picture of that. So, wow, nothing took here. Hang on a second, because the numbers did not change. So what we want is to add up. And this is why I walked you through the pen and paper calculations first, in case you run into situations like this. Because a lot of people that have been taught by me, mentored by me, they all know I'm very big on pen and paper analysis. Why? For situations like this. I have so many times where my computer has failed me, or there's no internet connection. So it doesn't matter how many spreadsheets you have, how many pre-calculations and formula you've built in. Sometimes when technology does not work, you have to rely on the old canoodles here. Remember, even the smartest bee cannot steal what's between the 6 inches between your ears. And that's why knowledge is the greatest asset you will ever get and increase for yourself. So you know what? I think what it's looking like is we're gonna have to, lots of things didn't take. This is why we have to really double check. Holy bejesus. Okay, so that minus that, minus that, minus initial, and then minus that, which is initial option, and then minus monthly option. All right, I think now we're going somewhere. Okay, and then this would be that divided by the initial, and then divided by 3 years. Very good. So that looks about right to me now. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm glad you guys witnessed that, because this happens. It does happen. And usually when we least expect it. And this is why sometimes even I make mistakes, but it's always nice when you have somebody that's a bit more experienced to look over your shoulders too. All right, so the second thing is money in the buy. So what we did is that we managed to shave off $8,000 in our purchase price, okay? So cash flow now turns into 1071. So compared to 1047, it went up. And then our ROI went up to 35.15%. Look at that. $8,000 difference. We went from 32.22 to 35.15. That's almost a 3% per year jump. Okay, 3% per year jump. That is huge these days. And last but not least, the total profit now, instead of 71,292, we have 77,755. Okay, so this is why, knowing how to find distressed properties in any strategies is so vital and so crucial as well. You can see how one factor can completely change your performance for the very best. And I'm only talking about $8,000 in difference right now. So it really depends on the market. And this is why I know a lot of you guys still, regardless of what we say, you feel more comfortable, especially with your first deal, that you want to invest in your own backyard, and that's totally okay. However, remember, for most people, even if they are investing in stocks, it's not like if you invest in Google stocks, you live in Sunnyvale or you live in Mountain View, you don't live where the Google headquarters is, or any other headquarters around the world for that matter. So remember, when you invest, let the numbers do the talking. So that's why we keep on emphasizing your why, your goal, financial goal, and then that will determine the strategy, in this case, lease options, and then let your strategy tell you where you should be going so that your money can be working as hard as it possibly can be. Okay, so with that said, that's really the episode today. I hope that you took a lot out of this again, and I love the comments that you got, because some of you analyticals, I know you're eating this all up because you've been messaging me, texting me, saying how much you love it, and I appreciate it, because I get really, I geek out about something like this as well. So the second thing I want to remind everybody is that, in case you didn't know, Trust Your Talent, we're hosting a lease options bootcamp starting tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. There's actually a Facebook group set up for it as well. So I will share the link along with the original video. The original video usually is hosted on my page, which is facebook.com/thetimtai. So if you're watching this video in other groups and other settings because other people have shared this with you, then make sure you find your way back so that you can enroll yourself into the free lease options bootcamp. We're going to do a 5-day session, giving you as much as we possibly can. And you're actually going to be getting free daily coaching as well, to make sure that by the time the bootcamp is finished, you can start to formulate a plan to achieve your financial independence and financial freedom. And as what we like to say these days, be financially happy. So thank you so much again for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow with the next episode. And have a great evening, everybody. Live well.